Well,
Hello,
it's
Laurie.
Tuesday. Hi, Doug.
Thanks for calling. Really
Oh, you're
appreciate it when
welcome.
you call. Yeah, I've been looking forward to seeing you. You've been on the road, and so we don't get a chance to talk much because when you're on the road, you're on the road. I mean, there's a lot of
Hmm.
places where you can't have conversations with people on telephones and stuff, right? I mean, you're way up there, right? Like up in the
Well, the
north,
best
and
place, yeah, the best place for me to make calls is in my car when I'm driving, but then you run into those dips and back roads and no service. But good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, and you're listening to the Press Box with our esteemed host, Mr. Doug Smith. And yes, I've been away and doing some stuff live. And I
awesome,
had our
awesome.
colleague, Dr. Ramin Modiri, was with me, and we had an amazing time. He participated, helped, facilitated. He was just in the trenches with me,
Amazing.
and it was wonderful experience for him because, of course, we were working with our Indigenous friends in the north, and so this was a whole new experience. And he said to me, "Oh man, you're good online, but get you live? Whoa."
I can't wait to dive into that because it's about getting results, right? And last week we missed you on the show. Simon was here, and I hope Simon's
Good.
listening. He has a chance to listen to this, and he did a phenomenal job. And we get to talk a lot about the Toronto Maple Leafs when he's here.
Oh,
So
yes.
we covered the Leafs last week, and I never got
Great.
a chance to play with the Leafs. It's Doug Smith tuning in here, broadcasting from Ottawa, Canada. And I'm a former NHL player, drafted second pick overall in 1981. And you can see there's a couple of jerseys around me, number
Mhm.
23 with LA and number 8 with the Edmonton Oilers, and then number 15 with the Buffalo Sabres, number 21 with the Vancouver Canucks. So it was an amazing journey through the NHL, and now I'm here working on the mind instead of not instead of working on the body, but now I work on the mind. I put it first. I put the central nervous system first, and I share methodologies with people. So that's why we're getting along so well because you go right after their central nervous system. You go for what's right above their neck.
Well, I thought actually I went for the juggler, but okay, that's
Oh,
good.
you just missed it. You caught them in the brain.
Did I?
That's good.
Yeah. And the heart, you know, put a knife in that heart. Let's see, is it made of stone yet, or could I get a knife through there?
Now tell us, you know, I know it's not appropriate to talk about who you're working with, but what kind of journey was it? When over what period of time? And I'm always interested in the numbers. I'm like
Right.
science
Okay.
guy. Like I want to know. I want to hear the facts. I want to hear the measurement. Of what you're doing right now because I know you measure everything you do. So let's maybe share with the audience a little bit and let them ask questions. About what your findings are.
Okay. Well, you remember when we first met and you took your retreat online, reclaiming
Yes.
my self-worth. Well, I never ever did that online until COVID. That was always an in-person experience. And that's who would come to the retreat center. And we would actually do a 2-day, maybe sometimes a 3-day in person. And of course, we took care of all the needs. The food was very strategic, what people ate during processing, because it's important. And they got to have their social time and their interaction with each other. And honestly, Doug, I think more education took place out in the smoking circle than anywhere else because that's when people would exchange their ideas. So I was invited to go up and work with a group of staff. These are people who are providing services,
Hmm.
and there were 12 of them because I don't work with more than 12 in this process if it's live. And it was mixed, men and women. And we started and we did 2 full days of processing the retreat work. So we get into things like, childhood trauma. How did we get where we are? How do we move from there to the future? that whole thing.
Mm.
I'm a numbers girl and I like to see results. And when you're in person, watching those light bulbs go on was so rewarding. So I knew things were happening, but this was very interactive and they did the work. And I like results. So I always include in my work when I'm out there live a very specific feedback document that they fill in. And you know, some of the questions are, you know, what's going on that you'd like to change. And I also ask, how does this process compare with other methods of recovery?
Oh, great
Most of these
idea.
people have been in counseling, therapy, support groups, detox, maybe jail even.
Yeah.
So
And they've
how
been
does
taking
this
advice from
process
their
compare?
family. They've been taking
Yeah,
advice from their family, right?
yeah,
Not
right.
the right thing to do.
So this particular gentleman said, when I asked that question, and how does this process compare? He said, this one is straightforward, laser beam, no beating around the bush,
Yes,
up to
yes,
the point, getting to the
yes,
point, right? So
yes.
then at the end, we do a numbers document. So they had to, you know, how did you feel about the content of the workshop?
Yes.
Uh, Ease of understanding the concepts,
Hmm.
having fun. The facilitator was professional and knowledgeable. How was the environment? We had an amazing space. My needs were met physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally.
Hmm.
I received value for the time spent. I feel I'm making progress after the retreat. I would like to do more of this type of work on myself, and I'm leaving refreshed and renewed.
Nice, nice.
And we just score 10 all the time. But that is because of experience, credibility. I've been doing this workshop for 25 years.
So you've got a
So for
set of
me, it's like,
scalp.
you know,
You've got a set of scalpels, is what you're saying. Like your knife is sharp. It's like we got to solve this issue. Oh, okay. We'll cut here, look inside there.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
that's what you're about. And I think today, and you're seeing it, and I'm seeing it in the healthcare industry. People are worried. People are concerned. People are becoming afraid. They've been isolated. The symptoms of the trauma we've experienced are predictable. And so,
Yes.
if you're listening to this in your organization, or if consider what you're doing with respect to mental health. Understand better what trauma is. Step towards simpler formats to solve a problem that has been around for a long, long time. So there's people out there that know how to solve the problem quickly and efficiently. And you're not going to buy a piece of technology that's going to do that for you. You need somebody to embrace them and hold them and make them feel safe, and then ask them the right questions, because it's not a question of doing the right thing. In my opinion, everybody wants to do the right thing. You've got to do the right thing in the right order, and that's what you bring to the table, Laurie. That's what I saw in your work. Does that make sense?
Totally. Because in the workshops, they're very strategic. It looks simple, but it's not. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. But in order for someone to actually say, I forgive myself for drinking too much out loud in the group, I couldn't do that on the front end of the workshop. That's at the, on the backside when
Hmm.
people have really come to terms with the fact that it's okay to be verbal, to be vocal. And we're also dealing in a community, in a culture where they've been silenced.
Hmm. Hmm.
That whole residential school system was all about, you don't have a say, you don't have a voice, you can't even speak your own language, you're not allowed to wear your hair long. So that's another veil of barriers that I've been able to overcome before
Hmm.
we even get them to the table to participate.
Like
So
Jordan Peter.
safety becomes number one.
Yes, like Jordan Peterson said, if you want to get somebody in your life to stop doing something, tell them not to do it 50 times.
Yeah.
Force them not to do it 50 times. And if you do that to them, they will stop doing it. So if you come
Yeah.
down on them about silly things over the 50th time, that's it. It's over. You can't get them
Well, our
back.
time was, yeah, but you see, we have to find better, more effective ways to get to the heart of the matter so that I'm telling me not to do it.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes, of
not
course.
somebody else telling me not to do something. It's myself saying, you know what? You need to stop drinking so much, or you need to spend more time with your kids. When you come up with those decisions yourself, you're not going to argue with yourself, but you
Yes,
can
yes.
argue with somebody else telling you what to do. And I think in this particular culture, there's been a lot of people going in and telling them what they should be doing,
And removing what they were doing before.
their way of life
Yeah, they
disappeared.
extracted it by saying no 50 times, and then they added in stuff that was in some weird, Western world like
Yeah.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So I
crazy.
just tell them like it is. I said, well, the most powerful aspect to you is your ability to make a decision. Nobody can touch that.
And
That's
this affects
yours. You
this
own that.
this is root to everybody. And I'm talking about the workforce, the young workforce right now. This is so critically important to the young workforce. This is not just a thing that we have that you have that can help somebody that's suffered long-term trauma.
No,
This is something that can get somebody on the rails really quickly if they're a young person, right? And if they're trying to figure out, is there a better way, to do this? Would you agree with that?
well, I just absolutely. And I just recently finished working with a young man. He's 21, 22, and he works in the warehouse of the workplace where one of our colleagues works in administration. And she said to me, you know what? The company is going to pay to send him to that retreat. He's so smart, but he lacks confidence and he lacks self-worth. And the only place that I know he can go get that is with you. And the change in him in the workplace has been phenomenal. Just the way he interacts with the team, asks questions if he's not sure, those kinds of behavior. And so he's even more happy at work. And
Mm-hmm.
they are more happy with him at work.
Mm-hmm. And it feeds naturally, Laurie, because trauma impacts all of us, right?
Yes,
It will always be with you, but it doesn't have to control you.
that's
And
right.
so every one of the mantras that I use in my mind to keep myself on the rails translates directly into yours. There's no violation. There's a consistency about you taking people and propping them up and getting them to see things that they couldn't see. And that's really what it is, right? I mean, they just
Yes,
lost sight of something.
yes. There was one comment. One of our questions is, what was your greatest setback throughout the process? Because of course we're triggering them, and they're getting triggered, and they get to share that. And then another question was, would you recommend this to others? And one of the guys, because we ended up two groups. We went up to work with one group, Doug, male, female group. They were prevention workers helping with that in the community.
So
And then,
word spread over the 2 day session, the first session you did, word spread, did it?
well, within 20, so we're wrapping it up at the end of the workshop, and the supervisor is in the circle, but she's on her phone. And I'm thinking, what's she doing on her phone? Because we have a no phone zone during the workshops.
Sure.
And she said, Laurie, can you and Ramin come back tomorrow and Friday for 2 days? Well, I didn't even have a chance to consult with my partner. She said, I have to know now. They want an answer. And I said, okay, yes, we'll stay. And from that time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 9:30 the next morning, those 13 men showed up. That's the only notice they had.
Wow.
And some of them drove 4.5 hours to get there from their community.
Wow.
So within a time frame, less than 24 hours notice, less than 12 hours notice.
There's
And
a
so we did a
message.
second group.
it sounds like anyways that there's a message coming from, a higher place, right? And
Yeah.
it's like we got to get this done. So this could be an awesome contagion, like,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
delivering self-worth in the places that you're delivering self-worth right now is such a treasure, and word will spread. Word will spread very, very quickly.
Oh, yes. And one of the guys wrote, there was, would you recommend it to others and why? And he said, for the first time, and I've been to many, many, many trainings and workshops, Dr. Laurie wasn't working out of a book. She was
Mm.
working out of life's experience, which has so much more value and wisdom.
Wow, so you're handing out blank pieces of paper.
Introducing Veteran House Alliance International Monthly 50/50 Raffle. Purchase your ticket today, link on display, and have a chance to win cash and help a great platform supporting veterans.
Right? I mean,
That's
my experience with you is you don't hand me something that's already been created. You hand me a blank slate and say, put whoever you are on the paper, which makes a lot
yeah,
more sense.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just makes
And
logical
they
sense.
had to go, but so in the men's group there were, um, maintenance people.
Hmm.
There were a couple of social workers. There was one guy who is, he's the director of a huge facility where they take care of kids, high risk kids, medical issues.
Hmm.
And so we had like a mixed bag of tricks, if you will, as far as background, but all the same problems, all the same feelings, all the same issues. That CEO, same as that guy that, builds doorsteps, same stuff.
Amazing. This is phenomenal, and nobody can escape um, this. What is it? This thing called lack of confidence. This thing called trauma. Nobody can escape. So, if you have something that can counter it, there's something here for everybody. So, family members. I know if you're listening to this right now, and you have family members, get them going on something really simple. And how simple is it, Laurie? Like, to engage with you. It's my experience was, man, like, so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to engage with you. Like we went through it 10 sessions. I think it was, if I recall correctly, it was once a week. I think I missed a week and we had to go 11. But within that period of time, you had me. There was nowhere I could go. It was like, okay, this just makes sense. I'm not gonna go against this. I'm gonna go with it. Like, I'm gonna flow with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Kathy's asking a question. No offense, she said, but she wants to ask, what is the ballpark cost and who pays for this? Well, it depends on numbers in the room. It depends if it's online. It depends if, in this case, the employer is investing in their workers. And it's pennies, because that could mean, well, we know this. If you're working in a place now and you have to be replaced, the admin costs attached to, let's say, replacing a trucker is $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cost of replacing a driver. They have to
Mm-hmm.
fire that driver or he quits and they bring in a new driver. It's now $10,000 investment on behalf of the employer. So if people can be feeling better and more productive and more communicative, the retention rate on their job or their position is increased. So they don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be replacing people, because that's very expensive for a company to have to be doing that.
Now, here's a question. Are you
Okay.
measuring the bump in performance? Because I like the physics space, right? Do you have
Mhm.
the questions and measurement tools to see whether you're doubling performance, whether you're tripling performance? Do you have those measurement tools in place? Because I may be able to share stuff with you about that.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Why don't you?
Oh
We
yeah, well
usually do a,
I'll share it online. It won't make any sense to our listeners,
okay.
but shifting the performance curve to the right
Mhm.
so that you
Yeah.
can bump the performance of two people by 300%. So you triple their performance. So if you
Mhm.
the science says that if you work with the space in between two people most effectively, you'll give them a 300% bump in performance. So it's like turning two people into six people without adding a dime of cost. It's
Right.
not just turning two people into four people.
Yeah.
It's into six people.
And I could see that happening because I know you shared that with me before. Because when you have that group of 12, okay, so let's say they are all in um, a similar role, all right. What that does, this whole process breaks down any barriers that they have in communicating with each other. They
Mm.
realize that they all have struggles, that they're not alone. They all have had trauma, and maybe that's why the girl on the front desk is treating me like that, but she doesn't treat that person like that. So it
Mm.
creates that camaraderie, if you will, especially if you're working with people from the same organization.
Imagination and memory, you're dealing with it because it doesn't exist.
There you
Like,
go.
both imagination and memory, if you go down those roads, you're going to get depressed. It's going to hurt your performance
Yeah,
because
for
because
sure.
because it's absolutely fictitious. It doesn't exist. It's like
Hmm.
vapor. It's invisible, and you grab hold of it and make something out of it. You construct something out of it in your head, and then that thing infects your whole central nervous system almost instantaneously. We all know what
Yeah.
that feels like. Sometimes it gets us so wound up where you turn your head too quick and you almost fall down,
Yeah.
because you're leveraging your. You don't have to do that. You don't have that's a total self-worth issue,
Yeah.
because if you're good with yourself, you're going to be able to take a deep breath and go, I can handle anything that somebody throws at me right now. It doesn't matter
That's
what
right.
happens to you.
No,
The OPP
bring it
could show
on.
up at the door, right? And it'd be like, hey, how's
Bring
it
it on.
going? Come on in.
Yeah.
You can
So
handle it.
another question I asked, which is on track with what you're talking about in terms of progress or performance.
Hmm.
They had to answer the question, three things I've realized about myself while at the retreat. And this is a young man. He said, I realized that I actually do love who I am. And number two, I have a great job and wonderful friends who can support me. And I'm happy with how I am and how I am about to treat others.
Mm, that's a nice flair. That's a very nice
Right?
flair. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, okay. Um, and I had a little Johnny in the class. You know what I mean by little Johnny, who always raised the questions. And um, little Johnny, teachers know about little Johnny. He's always a troublemaker.
I was always in the
So
hall. So in grade two, there was a chair in the hallway, because I can't resist asking questions when I don't know something, and there's a lot that I don't know. And so I put my hand up so much that it's disruptive to the class, but I don't stop unless I'm put in the hallway.
there you
That's
go.
what was that your little Johnny?
Yeah, that's your little Johnny. Teacher, teacher. Another question we ask along that performance line that you were asking about, number
Yes.
4 question, name three things I want to make happen for myself when I return home. So
Hmm.
there's the implementation and the application. So this guy, little Johnny, said, I'm going to be more compassionate, more listening, less talking,
Hmm.
and very grateful.
Yeah. When I get up in the morning before my feet hit the floor, I say to myself that my success will be based on the success of the people around me. And
There you
so
go.
my role here is to just, plug things in and make things happen. But other people, are
Yeah,
priority one, right? I mean, helping other
yeah,
people is, you know, our subconscious brain only has three priorities: meeting basic needs, clarity of thought, and helping other people. And it's
That's
none
right.
of the complex things that we think about as human beings. It's the simplest things that the subconscious brain needs. And if you don't feed that gorilla the things that it wants, it will take over your life. And then the memory, the memories will haunt you, and the future will haunt you, and that's just the cascading effect. And so that's what I found through me came rolling out with your program. It was like a cascading effect. I'd do the thing, and it was so simple, it was ridiculous. But then I'd be in the kitchen, and I'd have this little revelation. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing about this is, you know how, and you and I have been on the receiving end of this, you'll have a speaker or you'll go to a seminar or something, and they have like a cookie cutter outcome. When you leave this workshop, you will all be blah, blah, blah. Okay. You'll all be more this or that. But
Yeah.
I don't work that way, because every person is an individual, just like their thumbprint. So the outcomes for Mary may not be at all the same outcomes as Jill or Sue. Okay. So name 3 things I want to make happen for myself when I return home. Every single person had different things there.
Yeah, of course, because there's so many
Right. Because I
things.
didn't
Yeah.
go in and say, yeah, when you're done this, you'll be able to be. I didn't set that up. They set it up themselves. So this guy said, I'm going to stop being hard on myself.
So it's
Because,
what comes to their mind. It's not,
right.
you're not planting anything. What you're
No.
doing is you're communicating effectively.
Mhm. Well,
Ah, yeah.
they get the exercise, and they focus on my finances. And number 3, don't get upset and ruin other people's lives.
Hmm.
See, it's all very personal. So that's why the staying power is there. So, for
Mhm.
example, if we go to um, a big event and there's a speaker and there's 100 or 1,000 people in the room, the retention rate for that information is only 2%. But in our situation, the retention rate is 85%, because they actually learned a concept in the workshop, then they got to practice it right there. Most training workshops, etc., there's no opportunity to
Mm.
implement it immediately so I can practice it.
The numbers are almost the same, Laurie. I measured for about 5 years. The numbers when I ask people in the room if they suffer from trauma to stand up, it's like the numbers are about 10%, 15%. They don't feel that they suffer from trauma, but they want to perform better. So if you ask them to perform better, they all stand up.
Yeah.
So they want the performance end, but they don't know what's preventing them from performing.
Right. They don't want to work on what's preventing them from
And so that's what I
performing.
hit out of the park every time with what I present to a large audience. I make them more knowledgeable, more aware. And then when I ask them at the end of the event, if you suffer from trauma, please stand up. 80% of them stand up. And that's my standing ovation, of course, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah.
so there you go.
So you have your way. You have
and
your,
yeah, but it's the same. The percentages, the freaky thing is the percentages are the same. Yours might be lower on the front end, because people are becoming more aware of this, but your 2% is my 10 or 15%. And then you take them through the process, and you end up capturing 80 to 90% of their mind share, which is, why would you do it any other way? Like I challenge any healthcare system, I challenge any treatment system to get better numbers than that.
Yes.
Because it's core, because it's coming from your brain will dictate what happens to your body, right? And then everything starts to transform. Things that you don't need in your body can be removed, right? And everybody that's listening needs to know that the central nervous system, the spinal column, beats at 11 beats a minute.
Wow.
Okay, it's our core rhythm. It controls heart rate and breathing. And when was the last time you went to the doctor and the doctor said, you know what, your 11 beats a minute's going really good? They have no idea. Unless you're a neurosurgeon, they don't pass this down to family doctors. So the treatment of the central nervous system through waves, through electricity, through a bunch of different things is such a wicked, I'll say wicked, because it's an amazing cascade into your physical ability, right? Because
Totally.
your brain is molding you and changing you on a regular basis. So you might as well start there. And
That's
so
right.
that's how we connect, right? I mean,
Yes.
you're doing the same thing. But you get the opportunity to do it in the classroom setting like this. You're taking people through sometimes some very difficult things. There has to be a very high level of trust in the room. How do you build that at the beginning? What do you do to get everybody to trust one another?
Oh, I'll share that. I just want to share this first, though, because it's coming up about the wellness.
I
One
won't
of the
forget about
questions.
trust. I won't forget
Yeah,
about
no.
that. That's one of
No.
my behaviors.
One of the questions on this feedback was, what was my greatest setback or realization while in the process? And how did I handle that? This guy wrote, keeping things inside of us make us sick. Not being able to let go of the past. Working on myself will enable me to do that and have a healthier lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. We look forward more to going to help somebody than going to trick them into giving them our money for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our bodies get more for that. And once you understand that, and then you actually step back and take a breath and feel what that means to your body, it's really hard to explain to somebody, right? So you get them on that path to be able to take a breath and say it's okay. And when I broke my neck, when I broke my neck and when I was paralyzed, whenever I've gone into surgery, I go in to these situations with, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. When I broke my neck, when I smashed into the boards, I repeated, it's okay. And I broke my neck in hundreds of places. And I was lying in one spot for 6 hours. And all I kept saying to myself was, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Even though the pain was at an extraordinary level, right? I just kept saying, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And it seemed to, that mantra seemed to help me, right? Some people say, oh God, I say it's okay. Maybe mix the two together. I don't know. But that was my experience.
Mm-hmm.
The Disability Channel would like to thank our existing sponsors. We really appreciate the support and kindness from the BIAs across the GTA, Ontario, Canada, and our friends in the USA. We love making new friends. Thank you for supporting our existing employment programs.
And I believe that we need that encouragement that no matter, and this is one of the things that I do to build the trust, but the first thing I do is I get up front, and I had a client introduce me the first workshop. He had been a client of mine when I had my retreat center back in 2014. And he is with this organization. And he said, Laurie, I want to introduce you. I said, okay.
Wow.
I had no idea what he was going to say, but I knew him from before. There weren't a lot like that, but he was one. And he stood up and he said, well, I went to Laurie's resort and spent 3 days there first as a client. And then he came later chaperoning other men when they came. And he said, I don't know where this woman gets her energy, but we arrived in the middle of a snowstorm, 2 o'clock in the morning, and Laurie's outside standing like a statue waiting to greet us because, of course, we had hot chocolate and treats and get them to their rooms. And I always greeted the clients personally.
Amazing.
And so he joked with them about that. And he said, I will tell you right now, you better put your seat belts on because you're going on a hell of a ride the next 2 days.
Oh, that's so everybody buckled up, and he set it up so you could take him where you wanted to go.
Exactly.
Oh,
But if
beautiful.
I don't know anybody, let's say it's a new group and I don't know them, I just tell them my story within 30 seconds, less than a minute. And this is how I do it. And I just go, I'm Laurie. I'm the product of a teenage mom. My dad came home from overseas, an alcoholic. I grew up in 100 places because my dad's traveled with his work. And I never knew, from one day to the next if we were moving or not. Grade 12, I graduated. I was in 13 schools. I had a teacher once who told me I would never amount to anything, too.
Wow.
And my first husband died by suicide. And actually, that's what we believe to be true. He's on a missing persons list since 1986. I met a guy in a bar. Don't marry anybody you meet in a bar, because I did. I looked at this handsome man and I went, I'm going to marry that. And I did. And it lasted for 18 months. So I was divorced. Then on my own for another 5 years. And after that second marriage, I had to go bankrupt. And I lost everything. I lost my home. I lost everything because I was the major earner in the family. I was incarcerated one time for 60 days for a crime that never even existed. And I have no criminal record or anything, so I was misprocessed in the system. So I've been through the medical system, the mental health care system with my husband in 1984, the judicial system, the banking system, the securities system. You name it, I've been there. So what is your problem?
So that's how you... Yeah, the trust just builds and builds and builds
then they just knew.
because you keep it real, right? And a lot of people wouldn't share some of that stuff with.
No.
They think they have to keep that to themselves, or their ego wouldn't allow them to let it go in order to help other people, right? But it does.
Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, and I always share that I wasn't able to have my own children. It depends on the group. If it's women, it might be a little bit different than with the guys, but I just become very vulnerable in the first 5 minutes of me meeting them in the classroom. Yeah. And I say, now, anything else you want to know, I'll tell you. But I said, trust me, there's 8.5 billion people on the planet, and not one person is going to get out of here without any trauma. And that includes you and me and everybody we know.
Yeah.
So get over yourself.
What a testament. And when I wrote the trauma code in 2012, people couldn't put the book on their desk in the workplace, because I'd go in and speak to an organization, but and then I'd have a chance to meet with them later, and I could never find a copy of my book, even though everybody had one. And it's like, well, I don't want to. They put it down below the desk, the desk. And now, if you got a book about trauma and being a better person, you got it out. You got it out on your desk.
Oh,
it's like, look, I'm working on myself.
Right? Yes.
So
but that's but those we're trailblazers. We're trailblazers, Doug. We were ahead of our time that way. I was sharing this stuff years ago, but people weren't hearing it or getting it or really even recognizing that they needed it. Oh, and I did tell them that when I moved out west, the culture shock was beyond anything. I'm from the East Coast. We're prim. We're proper. We don't share stuff. We don't tell the neighbors what's going on in the house. This was all the programming.
And you
that
work
we endured.
And I'd like to get your perspective, and for you to be able to share this with people. Anthony Robbins, what they do, I mean, they capture some of them in the net, right? But the work that I've done, I find that being in a smaller group, being able to relate to people and seeing people grow, and you can't do that in a big group of people, right? You can't get the kind of results, because we're here to talk about getting results. You can't get the results with everybody in the room if you do it Anthony Robbins style. It's not that it's bad. I mean, Tony Robbins got me out of some really bad spots with his philosophy and his work, and but I look around the room when I go to these things and I go, holy cow, they're getting 5 or 6, and there's 450 that they're tossing aside. What do you feel about that?
Well, I learned that the hard way too, because I was on a speaking circuit and I never felt good about it. You've heard me share this. I'd, fly into a city, speak, fly home, and I knew that I had opened up cans of worms for people, because different things that I would share, or people would have triggers, right?
Got it.
Then what do you do? Then
Yeah.
you're going to a therapist and paying them $200 an hour to listen to you talk about what you want to talk about. And that doesn't work either, obviously, for some people. So I came up with a system of small groups, because you can build the safety really fast. We cannot do our personal work in a crowd. That's not going to happen
There's
all.
there's a tagline. We cannot do our personal work in a crowd. That's so simple.
No,
Keep going.
no. And so, we developed that system that I don't put more than 6 usually in a workshop. In this situation, I did 12 because I have the skills to do that. But really, and I would rather impact those 12 people and have them come back, which they did, and said, what's your calendar look like in January? We want to bring you in to work with some parents. Because parenting's a big issue for our communities. Okay. And they do Zoom and they do online, and it's all going to work out great. But you can't do your personal work. Most people can't even do their personal work in a family.
Well, it's hard
The
because
most dysfunctional place.
they can't do it in a family. You can't do it by yourself, because all you do is fool yourself, right?
Right.
Like, you go look over here, look over. Oh, I'm busy now. So yeah, finding the combination lock to the kind of community that can get this done in a fast fashion, right to the point, cut to the quick. You can't have 50 people, but you can have 10. You can't have, you have to ask questions in a certain way. You don't ask them this way, you ask them that way. You have to question the questioning that you're using right now. And if you're not sure, people can reach out to you. Now, how do they reach you, Laurie? Like, make it simple for them to get a hold of you.
Yeah. And then I want to answer Kathy's question. She said, what is it like for women in the West? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to put my number up, because I like phone calls. I'd rather talk to you in person. I don't, just call me.
That's a
and
great
if I can't take your call, I will get back to you. And for you, Doug, I'm going to put your banner up here too, because you have stuff. And
people can go, what you can do with me. It's really simple. I'm trying to simplify my life. I've been around technology for a long, long time now. But I'm on YouTube, so you can go to Doug Smith NHL on YouTube. And I super appreciate you subscribing, because I've got some really good playlists up there. I've got 2 or 3 NHL records that I'm involved with, and I've got them up there in video, and you can watch them. And the project that I'm working on YouTube right now will allow a lot of players to see some unseen footage that my dad recorded from a satellite dish in the 1980s.
Cool.
And these players don't have any other place, and their grandkids and their kids don't have any footage of them playing in the NHL. And I've got hours and hours of footage my dad recorded, but it was a live feed, so nobody recorded it. And until 1990, the NHL was filing all their VHS tapes to the landfill sites. The landfill sites are full of like all the footage. Yeah, they only kept like certain highlights. It's just the way we've changed, the value of that content today. So I put this content up, and it exploded, really. I mean, people want to see some of this stuff. It's hockey season. but I've also got a playlist of juggling, frisbee. I'm teaching. I like to teach kids how to juggle, how to spin a frisbee on their finger, how to spin a basketball on their finger. So I like to give people like simple lessons to learn how to do this stuff, because my goal is to improve the performance of the brain.
Right.
Right. World brain. Right. Not mind body. Okay. Mind body is nonsensical. World brain. Take care of the world. Take care of your brain, not your mind and your body. Okay. It's just a little too self-centric. Okay. And besides, it doesn't map to psychiatry, philosophy, or neuroscience. So stop doing mind body. If you own mindbody.com, you know.
Right on. Okay, well, back to Kathy's question. I had a culture shock when I moved from the East to the West.
Yes.
And I was talking with my mom on the phone, who taught us how to be ladies and, taught us good manners and all these things. And I'm grateful for her to do that, to have done that, because I've had to, every Thursday night, my mom would set the table with the china and the silver, and my dad would come home from work and he'd say, "Oh no, it's Thursday night again." He said, "Why are you doing that? Like, let's just do supper." And my mom said, "We never know." This is a smart mom. She was only young when she had me, but she knew stuff. She said, "We don't know who our kids might get to have a dinner with. And I would never want them not to know how to do that." And you know what? I'm in Austria. I want a trip. And we're in a castle. And we're eating off china that's 1,200 years old. We're drinking out of glasses that are 700 years old. And the silverware on either side was a yard long. But
Wow.
I knew exactly how to do that. See?
We welcome you to advertise and promote your goods and services, and or brand your logo to 34 million subscribers on Canada Talks 167. Your investment will go towards our employment programs in the media industry for persons with disabilities and veterans.
Wow.
Was she not smart?
She
I
was.
had been in high places like that many times where I'm sitting there going, "Thank you. I didn't grow up eating a hamburger in front of the television." Okay.
My mom,
Yes.
had to take the knife away from me when I was very young, because I couldn't have a knife at the table. So she just never allowed me to ever have a knife at the table, because I just I would cut things, the wrong things with it, and I
Yeah.
just didn't want. So, anyways, I went into the NHL. I moved away from home. I was still cutting my steaks with a fork. I can cut anything with a fork. This finger is so strong because I just learned how. People look at me and go, "Hey, you're cutting your
That's
steak with a fork."
too much. Oh, yeah. So she did. She taught us all that. And
Wow,
but
that's
so I'm
great
on
to
the
have.
phone. Yeah, I'm on the phone to her, and everything out here is very, not that way. So I said, "Mom, you can't not believe the women out here." Well, she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "It's not what's wrong. It's what's right." I said, "My God, Mom, they can dress up, look like Queen Elizabeth, go to a party, know how to do everything. Then they come home, they put on their overalls, and they go out and they birth calves for 2 weeks. Then they get on a combine and then they get on their horses and they go on trails to the mountains. They're raising children. Mom, these women their hands are like men's hands. They're so,
Strong.
that must be why they get their nails done a lot. But anyway, I said, "Mom, we're so prissy and no guts." I even took riding lessons when I got out here. And I went, "I need to learn how to ride a horse or I'm not going to fit in here." But there were lots of cultural things, the difference. And then I thought back to our work in the world, Doug.
Yes.
I thought, how am I going to do my work in the world out here? Then I figured it out. I'm going to do a series of redneck seminars.
Oh.
And the first one is going to be called 10 Ways to Get Your Head Out of Your Ass.
Wow, that fits.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
And that would be a workshop on denial, right? Because we're all there. We all got our head shoved up our butt. So we don't think we need anything because everything's,
We're
fine.
Yeah.
I was queen of denial. How are you doing, Laurie? I'm just doing great. And I'd smile. Over to you, Doug.
Oh my
That
God.
I hope
Well,
that
no,
answered your question, Kathy. She said,
that's a
"Oh
great
wow,
answer.
what is the West like? It's
That's a
different."
it is different because I lived in Los Angeles for 5 years. I played for the Vancouver Canucks. I lived in Edmonton, played for the Oilers, as I said earlier. And you end up becoming what you're around. Like I could moving around like that helped me realize, that you do become what you're around. And I like the West. I jive like super good with the West, and I actually miss it at times because it was an important part of my life between 18 and 27. So yeah, but being home is being home, right? That's my community. So
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, wow.
yeah,
And I've never wanted to move back. This is the thing. They've got me. But I like the energy here. It's more Americanized here because a lot of the oil industry is attached to Texas. The guys from Texas came up here and helped, everything to get off the ground. And, it's oil country and it's ag country and it's the energy is really electrifying. It's nothing too conservative here. People
awesome.
had big signs out in their yard with a carbon tax and a big X through it, sitting in their front yard like like a politician would have a voting placard in their yard. Well, you see that here, no carbon tax in Alberta.
And
Plus, I
Ottawa,
love the
being
fact.
in Ottawa, it would be the antithesis, right? And that's what
Yes,
I
that's
see in the
right.
news. I see it in the news all the time. Like it just the opposing, and you can understand why. I
Yeah.
mean, the closer you get to the bureaucracy, the I don't know. I think the stuffier you get. I mean, it
Yeah.
seems to be the way it is, right?
Yeah. And
So
Kathy says, I know they like beef. No, we grow beef here. You're driving by, you see an elk farm, a bison farm, a cattle farm, and we all look at that as steaks on the hoof.
oh, nice, nice. So what's
Yeah.
next? What's next? What's the follow up to say a client like that? I mean, it's great. You go in, you spend a couple of days with two
Mhm.
groups, and then you come home. Maybe we could close off the show with just a quick. This is what we're going to follow up with for the people who are listening.
Yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing. Remember I said I flew into a city and I'd open up the can of worms and then I wouldn't have a way to support people. But we have over 1,000 workshops to support people and we can do that online. And I've already had several requests from people in the communities that want to bring me in, put me on the big screen in the boardroom, and let's do a follow-up workshop. So we
Wow.
have the means to do that and the technology to do that. So one community wants me to work with their they meet with their ladies once a week in the community, so they're just going to bring me in that way and put the women in the room, and we can do core, we could do parenting, we could do finance, we could do whatever.
Wow. 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 Okay. I wish you could write the top five, on the screen before we go, but
Oh, sure.
you've got a show every day of the week right now,
Yes, yes.
and people need to tune into that show. So
Well, our
and the other
show
one.
is very popular, Doug. Our show, The Press Box, because we are talking about, it's not just about interviewing hockey players. There's much more to you than that. And so the show has a nice content flavor.
Yes.
So our viewers might come and you introduce us to a hockey player, your friend, Dr. Vic. Maybe you and I do a show together on
Sure.
wellness performance. I think our show is very popular. And actually, when I was up north, everybody got my card, and I talked about you and the press box. So we'll be having some new viewers from the north, and they love hockey. You know that. So
Well, I hope we're making it, a big difference. I love to hear that. Thank you very much. And if the work that I've done since, the career suddenly ended, gets in more people's hands, that's my objective, is to just, run it past
sure.
people and make it available. So if they're not ready right now, they can step into it, when they are ready, when they're ready to, break
That's
through
right.
adversity, So,
Yeah, exactly.
well, fantastic.
Wouldn't it be
Laurie.
fun if I took you north with me sometime?
Yeah, I'd have to bring my stick and my skates.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, I took our partner, Dr. Ramin Modiri, with me so that he could be mentored and educated in the culture. And he just simply enjoyed himself so much. And they're so open and warm. And see, the thing is, why I enjoy working with our Indigenous communities, they recognize that they're in trouble and they're open to doing something about it. A lot of our people think everything's great and there's nothing to work on, but yet their life isn't reflective of that. They haven't achieved what they wanted to. Maybe their family situation isn't what they want it to be. There's all kinds of, they've been married 3 or 4 times. Oh yeah, that's another thing I put in there too, is that I've been married 3 times. So it's getting married is like building a home. You have to have 3 before you get the one you want. That's a tagline for Patty.
Oh,
well, you may
yeah.
like this house right now, but you'll be buying 2 more from me because you have to buy 3 before you finally get the one you want. So that's like repeat business.
Yes, it is. Yes. Well, this has been fantastic, and
Okay.
I can't wait to see how things develop and reach out to us. You can always reach Doug Smith at DougSmithPerformance.com. You can type into Google Doug Smith NHL. Look, I managed to optimize the name Smith. Can you believe it? If I can optimize the name Smith, doesn't matter what your name is. If you've got something positive to say and you'd like to help people get better, then go for it. It's a happy place to be. I just love it. It's a healthy and happy place to be. So thanks, Laurie. Thanks for today, and we'll see you next week, I guess.
Yes, we will. Or we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yes. Oh, yes. We've got a class tomorrow morning.
That's right.
I do the thing.
Okay, Doug. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a great day,
Thank
Laurie.
you, Kathy, for being here too, live. All right, here we go.
Politics get in the way. Freedom is the price I pay. I'll be long gone. On a distant mountain top, neither side is willing to stop. I'll be long gone. Held hostage to wishful thinking, mama, yeah. Bullets travel in a straight line. Nothing can change his heart or mind. Don't think I'll survive beneath the velvet sky. Ooh. Know that I'm out here for a reason, yeah. Hard to understand just why. Everything I have today, out here on the barren plain, time to move on. outside of the line, I swear. Road used to be right there. Now it's all gone. All gone. Still held hostage to wishful thinking. Mama, yeah. No life travels in a straight line. Nothing can change this heart of mine. Don't think I'll survive beneath the velvet sky. Ooh. Know that I'm out here for a reason, yeah. Hard to understand just why. Just why. That's why.